Very good morning. You're watching BQ Prime. I'm Tamanna Inamdar. And the question of the day is, how do you plan for a mega rally where all bets are off? Now, we know a few things that are likely to happen in the next hour or so. Indian markets are expected to open with a significant gap up after better than expected performance of the BJP in state polls yesterday. But how do you strategize on a day like today? What is going to be the outlook? And is this a Santa rally that can sustain? Also, importantly, what are the messages that we're getting from these state elections? And are we truly confident that they translate into another win for the Modi government in 2024 Lok Sabha elections? What does this actually mean for the way policy of this country works? To speak on a gamut of these issues, I'm joined today by Shankkar Aiyar, political economy analyst and author. Vikas, Khemani, founder of Carnelian Capital Advisors, is with me on the show. And I'm also speaking with Mayuresh Joshi, head of Equity Research India, William O'Neill. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us today. Great to have you on the show. I'm going to start with Vikas's comments because, we're just about an hour or so from market opening, and everyone's wondering how high is high when it comes to the Nifty this morning. Now, Vikas, one debate within the newsroom is how much of this was factored in, because you saw a stupendous performance on the Nifty in Friday close. You saw markets rallying all of last week. Was there something the markets knew? Was this election result already factored in?
Hi, Tamanna, good morning. I think clearly markets were not expecting this kind of win. There was a narrative that BJP will get one state and which is MP and Rajasthan probably 50-50. I don't think anybody expected Chhattisgarh. So I think 3-1 kind of win. I don't think there was any expectation in the market, and probably so this is a definitely positive surprise. And I think in our last interaction also I had told you that if there's a positive surprise, then markets would rally. Also it's important to know that state elections, irrespective of the outcome, I believe that won't have any much implication on the central elections. But of course, this outcome sort of silences most of the critiques or most of the people who would not who were doubtful about 24 outcome. And I think those people, in my opinion, who were sitting on sidelines, thinking that what is a big risk in 24, I think that risk with this outcome gets reduced significantly. And those people who are waiting on sidelines, waiting for that clarity to emerge, in my opinion, will start deploying money, whether it is domestic investors or international investors. And as a result of that, I think, you will see a good positive market momentum continuing. Of course, not to say that, we have fundamentals or economic fundamentals are anyway strong. So you are now having a situation where big risk was expected in 24. That big risk today, perception of that big risk gets reduced significantly. And that's what, big importance of this event.
Yeah, absolutely. But what would that translate into, Vikas? Just a quick follow-up there. If I were to ask you specifically, what does that translate into? You had a 20,267 closing on the Nifty on Friday. People are talking about 21,000 within this month. Do you think that at higher levels you will see some amount of profit booking? Is it a smart idea to do that right now with a market this positive and overheated?
I don't think so, because I think, again, I don't think Indian markets are expensive. In fact, I believe that given the economic fundamentals of Indian markets and economic, I don't think at all that we are expensive. So if your markets are not expensive, the big risk as perceived by the market for the 24 is out. So I do think that whatever number, it's very hard to predict any number, but momentum will continue, and it can very well cross that, because that is just not even 5% away. And rallying five and pre-election we have seen, by the way, in 2014, 2019, there could be a pre-election rally if you take 3-4 months view. It is not incomprehensible that we can see 10 to 15% pre-election rally, because now more or less people would say that a strong majority BJP government passing 300 number, crossing the previous tally, is a strong possibility. And once that is factored in, then pretty much most of your other risks are out, and hence people will go to invest based on the continuity. And more importantly, I think we will see strong FI flows coming through pre-election.
So money on the sidelines might come in. Shankkar, good morning for us, good evening for you, and thank you for joining us from Toronto. I was going through the piece that you wrote on BQ Prime on the 16th of November and Bang On, where you talked about the role of, call it freebies, call it welfare mechanisms that state governments are putting forward to voters, and that seems to have worked for the BJP, especially the Ladli Behna scheme in Madhya Pradesh. What is it telling us about the way this kind of spend will increase? Because there is a clutch of brokerage notes saying, now that it's clear that the BJP is going to come back, your welfare spends might not exceed. Do you think that's the case, or is there now even a stronger case for more and more welfare schemes?
Well, let's lay out the ground in this. So, what are the factors we are looking at? We had a decent economic fundamental. India is at an inflection point in terms of geopolitics. There was a question mark about whether 2024 would deliver, or as they say, is it a done deal or not? The market knows a lot more about momentum than politicians would uh, give it credit for. But both politics and economy is driven by momentum. So this kind of victory, what does it do? It creates momentum for the BJP to sort of build on this uh, stupendous victory. If you remember, in 2014, BJP had won around 272 seats, out of which 136, about 50% seats, they won with more than 50% of the vote share. In 2019, they won 300 plus seats, of which 224 seats came with 50 plus vote share. The target of the BJP, I won't be surprised if they announce Abki Baar 400 Par. Whether they achieve that outcome or not is not the issue. The issue is the confidence that this gives them to build on this and to get an absolute majority once more, or as the Prime Minister said, sets them up for a high. What does this mean in terms of economic policy? Yes, there is. We all have to accept that every opinion poll, every election campaign in the past 1 year shows that there is trouble in the unemployment figures in the top of every opinion poll and exit poll, and you'll hear more of the reason that parties are giving cash benefit transfers or farmers income support. So there is a direct cash benefit transfer, and there are these top-up schemes where the state government adds to what the center is doing. I think we'll see some amount of this fiscal latitude in the coming budget. There will be announcements because at the end of the day, it is the bottom pyramid which goes to vote first, not the guys who are riding on the Nifty or on the Fed. So there will be a greater emphasis on delivering this kind of welfare. Fortunately for India, the GST collections are good, direct tax collections are good, so maybe it can sustain. And all the doubters or the skeptics, for instance, I think Morgan Stanley, others, a number of reports had sort of questioned whether 2024 was a done deal, and it fell below, there might be a correction in mid-2024. Those doubts will sort of get diluted. I suspect some of this is already priced in them.
Do you think 2024 is a done deal, Shankkar? Since you've said it twice, what is your view?
My hunch, I've been covering elections from 1984.
Yeah.
And my hunch says that it's a done deal. Primary reason is that who else is going to do it? Do you see anybody in the opposition? So the Congress party is in a face-off with BJP in roughly about 180 seats. The BJP had won about 130 or 140 of these seats in 2014. In 2019, they won 170 plus of these seats. So the weakening of the Congress party is the strengthening of the BJP. BJP's electoral machinery, Mr. Modi's campaigning, the detailing. I mean, yesterday, he has already launched the campaign for 2024 election. He had touched all the points. I mean, his speech is like a Harvard Business School case study. He has touched every market point that needs to be touched to expand his market. Yes, they have challenges in the south of India. BJP has had difficulty defeating regional parties. The BJP has difficulty sustaining power in the south of India. In fact, you can today drive from Bengaluru to Kolkata without encountering a BJP government. But those states do not account for the maximum number of seats. The maximum number of seats is in the north. And which is why in today's piece I mentioned that harnessing the demographic dividend is going to be the biggest challenge for BJP. And that keeps reflecting in the unemployment figures, in the rush for quotas. I mean, almost every community wants quota, this rush for social fast, and all of this will play into the landscape. The playbook will keep changing every month.
Yeah. Just a quick word from Vikas Khemani on this point before I come to Mayuresh to what to exactly do today at the end of all of this, after all of this information, what to pick and what not to. But just a quick word from Vikas Khemani on the point about freebies, because you've had, like I said, Nuvama, Jeffries, for example, all of them saying that this will boost investor sentiment, but also reduces the need for more welfare schemes. What we're seeing, however, in terms of evidence is to the contrary, where you have the Kisan Nidhi Samman, for example, the promises that that monthly payment will, or that regular payment will increase from 6,000 to 12,000. The Ladli Behna scheme, already the promises it will go up to 3,000 rupees a month. And you have every state and the central government making those promises. Is that a concern, Vikas, as far as markets are concerned, or markets go, or is this also giving more spending power to the bottom of the pyramid?
I think if you see, one of the hallmark of Modi government has been that they have brought very good, reasonably good fiscal discipline. And, thanks to the reforms, as Shankkar was mentioning, the tax collection is very buoyant. So if you are actually having good tax collection and using that for the welfare of the people, especially at the bottom end of the society, which apparently also is in a bit of a distress because of the inflationary pressures. So I think in a way, I would say as long as you're managing your fiscal deficit and also keeping the momentum for the infrastructure development spend, which if you see is at an unprecedented pace going on. So the key thing is that managing your finances well and yet spending money for the welfare of the people is not a bad thing, in my opinion. Of course, what happens is that when it just gets out of the control and this becomes the only way of fighting elections, which I think is a big of a concern, but that's more structural in nature. And I think when you get a majority government, when you get a very strong government, that also enables a government like BJP, once it comes back into the power, to have a little bit more responsible approach. When you are, out there to win elections, you got to match, what your opponent is about. Sort of proposing, because you can't be not winning the election. And I think so that is one part. But I would say important point is that the fiscal policy of the government, monetary policy of the recent times have been very, very responsible. And that is what market has been looking for, consistently. And on the top of it, reforms are adding, on the tax buoyancy, tax collection. So right now the momentum is going on. And I don't think right now market would be very worried about it. But structurally speaking, there has to be one answer where, because if you give too many free BBs, it also takes working class out. People, sort of don't choose. Why would people work if you keep giving freebies to people, right? So those are the structural issues. But I guess at least from a next short term to medium term, I don't think that is a big concern.
Yeah, and also, we tend to have a very cynical view of, we call it freebies. We have to also say what the requirement is to bring up everyone to the same level in this country.
And Tamanna, if I can make a point that, India has effectively implemented universal basic income, which West is talking about for long. Yeah. So this is our way of implementing universal basic income, especially when such kind of transformation happening and a lot of people are in distress.
I think that's the point Shankkar made. Some 11 or 12 states in this country already have some version or the other of UBI and regular income coming in. Shankkar, and that's not necessarily a bad thing? Or do you see more of that happening?
Well, it is something that one has to be wary of because this has to be matched by growth, by investment and inflation management. One of the promises in the elections has been to hike MSP prices. That has an inflationary impact. How much room does this kind of trend leave for the center? So typically, most commentary on the economy focuses on the central government. My piece today looks at the state government. What has been the performance of the state government? Are they able to bring in the investment? Are they able to deal? So can state governments sort of be more fiscally constrained? Will they be able to build on the investment opportunities that are coming through PLI, global capacity
Absolutely,
centers?
absolutely. Let me just get Mayuresh in. Mayuresh, apologies for, I just wanted to set the context before I came to you. And thank you for your patience, because now comes the important part. Important in the sense for viewers looking at what to do in the next half an hour, 45 minutes. ये सब तो ठीक है, बहुत बढ़िया है. But what do you do in a market like today? I just saw a note from JM which says 21,000 this week. What is your view and what will you pick?
Hi, Tamanna. Morning. Morning, Vikas. Morning, Shankkar. So largely, I think 21 is just a theoretical number. Looking at the macros and the micros, I think we are going to go far higher over the next few years as we transcend into a 5 trillion economy. Having said that, there will be structural falls that the market will probably see for global cues, so on and so forth. And therefore, I think the structural stories that exist in the market, the infrastructure and the capex themes will continue. And therefore, stories like the Sangvi movers probably look very, very attractive to us right now, Tamanna, at Markets with India. Power as a structural story as we're moving from thermal to renewables. A lot more is still expected across the entire power value chain. And therefore, a stock like CESC, in our belief, a huge turnaround can get expected from its franchise operations as well as intentions of probably getting into the renewable space, which probably also ensures reasonable volume and tariff growth as well, along with strong balance sheet dynamics. Last but not the least, auto ancillaries as a space, as we clearly transcend from the internal combustion engines to the electrical mobility part. Auto ancillaries are going to take a huge share as the transition happens. And therefore, battery makers is something that we like. Something like an Exide also probably looks very, very attractive, both from an earnings perspective as well as return ratios that can probably start coming through the next.
Yeah. No, in terms of the massive run up that we've already seen, Mayuresh, what would be your advice right now? Should you continue to hold? Are you seeing a greater upside? I mean, Vikas is talking about possibly 10 to 15% upside before elections. Or would you judiciously book some profits right now? What would be your strategy for the day?
Plus, I think if you're in the right sectors and if you're with the right stocks, I think, and your horizon is long term, you probably don't need to worry. As I said, corrections will keep coming in, but those become opportune times for adding on to good positions in the stock that you have or good stories that come through from any of these structural themes. Having said that, and I totally subscribe with what Vikas has said, if you probably look, Tamanna, right from 2004, as a built up to the Lok Sabha elections, 6 months before the elections, you'd seen a good enough and a good amount of rally as far as the markets are concerned. I have no doubts with what mandate has got received, that rally will also get witnessed in the Indian context. And 3 and 6 months post the elections, as the mandate comes through, in all of these 4 election years that we probably have, the markets have given and delivered decent set of returns. With our macros and micros, if there is any fall in the markets, purely in terms of global cues and then global reasoning thereof, there is no reason to believe for a structural downside to the Indian markets.
Yeah. Vikas, I just want to come to this point that when we're talking about continuation in policy, spend on infrastructure, what does it actually translate into in terms of earnings for companies, in terms of profitability, and in terms for, what you should bet on? Would you say defense, infra become key players? Do you see FMCG, and we saw a good run up on Friday in close as well, also extending those moves or still under pressure? Can you give us some sort of color to what you would pick right now, Vikas?
I think the great part about right now what's happening in the economy is a very widespread economic growth. If you see this quarterly earning, this is after a very long time, corporate earnings were ahead of market expectation, and more importantly, it was well spread out across most of the sectors except one or two. So I think that makes it that in India is witnessing a very big transformative, diversified, broad-based economic growth, and thereby the corporate earning growth is also broad-based. And I see, and that has been a hallmark of Modi government, its economic policies, that focus on every aspect of the economy and grow it well, right? And I think that is, you can see continuation of more of the same, and that basically brings sort of stable corporate earning growth, that brings very widespread opportunity, that brings also bit of a stability on the macros. So I think you will see continuation of more. You will see banking doing very well, infrastructure doing well. Manufacturing has been one of the biggest theme we've been investing and we've been playing for last 3 years, and I think that only gets stronger and better from here, because it's a 10-15 year theme according to me, and that's got very, very strong. So across the board, I believe that you will see very well diversified. Of course, some sectors will do well. Pharma is coming back as a very, very interesting play and theme. So, the themes won't change, because it's again nothing what we are betting on in continuation or more of same. And as more of same happens, you will see more of those same sectors will do well. Of course, the confidence on the sustainability and confidence on the continuity of that becomes higher, and that is what will re-rate the market. That is what get the more flows. And so, in shorter term, you will see markets getting re-rated over next 6 to 12 months.
All right. Shankkar, just, before we wrap up, that essential question that when we talk about the link between election outcome, politics, policy, and what it actually means at the end of the day for profitability and markets in the context of what we're talking about today, where do you see that link go? A continuation of this government and the policies that they have displayed in the last 10 years, what does it translate into in your view?
I think this government has struggled to create demand.
I've lost your link, Shankkar. I can't really hear you.
I said this government has struggled to build demand at the bottom 2 quintiles, which is why you've seen patchy growth in some of the sectors. The issue also, I hate to sort of burst any bubbles here, but for everything that we say about India, we have to be watchful. We are much more complex and much more integrated in the global economy than ever before.
Yeah.
And what happens in the US matters greatly. So whether Mr. Powell keeps the rates high, or if there is an early recession or there is a bump off, these will obviously have implications for the way company profitability and India's economic balances. So there is right now the rupee is being managed, but I mean, any event in the next 6 months in the economic global economy is going to have some shadow on India's companies. I believe that 40% of BSE 200 companies have very strong global linkages, and this is increasing. So one has to be also cognizant of the interdependence that globalization brings. On the face of it, this government has sort of expanded free rations, expanded Narega spending. I suspect there will be an expansion in MSP, in farmer relief, and also in terms of the Ayushman Bharat cap that's there. These are things that can be adjusted, amortized over a period of time. But these must be matched with growth, and which is where I come back to the question as to what is the state governments cannot be given a free pass for building economic growth. I think that is where the focus should be.
Well, that is definitely going to be a story which will come back. And, we'll have to actually see what is going to be the impact of all of this largesse. Does it help people at the end of the day improve their quality of life? Or are they spends which at the end of the day hurt India's fiscal deficit? But that's a question for another day. For today, the focus is on how markets will open in about half an hour from now, 40 minutes or from now. So thank you so much, Mayuresh, Shankkar, and Vikas for joining us. And hopefully for our viewers, this has been useful to understand how to navigate the day and the week ahead. Thank you for watching.